The first time I heard my own voice over the CB, it didn't sound like an echo. It sounded like a warning. I've been driving trucks for over 15 years, and I thought I'd seen just about everything the road could throw at me. Long stretches of empty highway, hallucinations from exhaustion, even people trying to climb onto trailers in the middle of the night. But nothing prepared me for what happened one night on Route 54 in New Mexico. It was one of those hauls where the desert feels endless, the sky pitch black except for the occasional streak of lightning way off in the distance. My cab hummed, tires thrumming against the pavement, headlights carving a narrow tunnel of vision through the dark. I had the CB radio crackling faintly, tuned low, mostly just background noise. That's when I heard it. "Accident up ahead," the voice said. 18-wheeler jackknife. 2 cars down. I leaned forward, squinting, my first thought being to check if it was one of the guys in a convoy. But here's the thing: my stomach dropped when I realized the voice wasn't just familiar. It was mine. I froze. The same cadence, the same slight rasp. If I didn't know any better, I'd swear I was listening to a recording of myself. I grabbed the mic. "Breaker 19. Who's on this channel?" Static, then clear as day. "You are." I swear my blood went cold. I pulled off one hand from the wheel, rubbed my face, thinking maybe I drifted too far into fatigue. But then headlights appeared up ahead. Cars at odd angles. Flashers. A semi sprawled sideways across the highway. I slammed the brakes, trailer rattling, and managed to stop just short of a nightmare pileup. Emergency crews were already there, lights spinning red and blue. My heart was hammering so loud, I could barely hear the officer waving me to slow down. If I hadn't been warned by myself, I would have plowed straight into it. I kept driving after they cleared me to pass, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Every instinct told me to turn off the CB, but I couldn't. Part of me was terrified of silence. About 20 minutes later, the crackle came again. "Deer on the road. Big one. Don't swerve." I gripped the wheel so hard my knuckles ached. I told myself not to listen, not to feed into this insanity. But sure enough, not even 5 minutes later, a massive buck stood frozen in the middle of my lane, eyes glowing in the headlights. I clenched my jaw, slowed hard, kept straight. The deer bolted at the last second. If I had swerved like instinct begged me to, I would have jackknifed for sure. My throat was dry, every swallow painful. This wasn't a hallucination. It couldn't be. Someone was talking to me through my own voice. Hours dragged by, the CB silent. I thought maybe it was over, until a new message cut through the static. "You shouldn't have taken this road." I snatched the mic, heart pounding. "Who are you? What the hell do you want from me?" The reply was delayed, like it wanted me to hang on every second. "I'm you, just a little further ahead." I nearly dropped the mic. My palms were slick on the wheel. "Further ahead" echoed in my head like a curse. Another hour passed, desert giving way to hills. That's when I saw taillights up ahead, swaying unnaturally, like the car was drifting or being pushed. I eased off the gas, dread knotting in my gut. "Stay back," my voice whispered over the CB. "Don't try to pass." I slowed, hanging back. Seconds later, the car's rear tire blew, sending it spinning out into the shoulder. If I'd tried to pass, it would have clipped me clean off the road. My hands shook uncontrollably now. I wanted to pull over, cut the engine, run from my own cab, but where was there to go? The middle of nowhere doesn't offer much safety. The final message came just before dawn. "Last warning." That was all, 2 words. I gripped the wheel, eyes burning from lack of sleep, nerves frayed down to nothing. For an hour, I drove in silence, waiting for whatever last meant. The sky lightened, the road stretching out empty before me. And then, finally, I saw it. A burned-out semi, half-tipped into the ditch. My exact model, right down to the faded company logo. The cab was charred black, windshield gone. I slowed to a crawl, heart stuttering, because through the broken glass I swore, I saw a figure slumped over the wheel. It looked like me. I don't even remember how I got past it. Just that I drove until the sun was fully up, then pulled into the nearest truck stop and sat there shaking for what felt like hours. I still drive, but I don't keep a CB anymore. I ripped the damn thing out after that night. Because every time I hear static now, even from a bad radio station, I half expect my own voice to come through reminding me of accidents I haven't had yet. And I'm terrified of the day I won't be able to avoid one. I never pulled over, never opened the door, never let anyone in yet. There she was, sitting beside me in the mirror. I've been running long-haul routes for nearly 2 decades, and I've picked up my fair share of strange sights on the road. Shadows darting across the desert at night, animals staring from the tree line, even a couple of hitchhikers I probably shouldn't have trusted. But this wasn't like anything I'd experienced before. It was a cold February night, sometime after 2 in the morning. I was heading east through a lonely stretch of Kansas highway, the kind of place where the sky swallows you whole and the road feels like it'll never end. My heater rattled against the cold, and the CB had gone quiet hours earlier. Just me, my engine, and the endless hum of tires. Out of habit, I checked my passenger side mirror. For a split second, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. A pale, gaunt face reflected in the glass, framed by long, dark hair. Someone was sitting in my passenger seat. I whipped my head around so fast my neck cracked, but the seat was empty. No one, just my duffel bag and the worn leather cushion. My pulse was hammering in my ears. I shook my head, muttering to myself, "You're tired, that's all." I went back to the road, gripping the wheel tighter, but curiosity got the better of me. I flicked my eyes back to the mirror. She was still there. Same pale face, expressionless, staring straight ahead. Her hands folded neatly in her lap, like she'd been sitting there for miles. I forced myself to look again at the actual seat. Empty. Back to the mirror, there she was. My throat went dry. I turned off the radio just to hear something other than my own ragged breathing. The silence in the cab felt suffocating, broken only by the engine's low growl. I tested it. I glanced at the rear view, then back to the passenger mirror. Every time, the reflection stayed the same. A young woman, still as stone, seated inches away from me, but only in the glass. I wanted to pull over, but the thought of stopping in the middle of nowhere with whatever this was, sitting next to me, made my stomach twist. So I kept driving, eyes locked on the highway, stealing nervous glances at the mirror. At some point, she moved. Not much, just a tilt of the head, so slow and deliberate, I almost convinced myself it was vibration from the road. But no, her eyes shifted too. In the mirror, she wasn't looking ahead anymore. She was looking at me. I gripped the wheel so hard I could feel the blood drain from my fingers. My breathing grew shallow. I didn't dare turn my head this time. If she wasn't there when I looked, or worse, if she was, I didn't want to know. For miles I drove like that, locked in a silent standoff with my own side mirror, her pale eyes boring into me, her lips just slightly parted, like she wanted to speak, but couldn't or wouldn't. And then the air in the cab turned icy. My windshield fogged at the edges. I could see my own breath puffing out in the beam of the dash lights. The heater was still rattling, but it wasn't doing a damn thing. That's when I heard it. A soft exhale. Not mine. Too close. Coming from the passenger side. I broke. I slammed the brakes, tires screaming, trailer swaying dangerously behind me until I skidded to a stop on the shoulder. My hands shook so badly I could barely put the rig in park. For the first time, I forced myself to really look at the seat beside me. Empty. But when I looked back at the mirror, she was closer. Leaning forward now, face inches from the glass, eyes wide and unblinking. I shoved the rig into gear and floored it, heart punching against my ribs. I didn't care about hours of service loss, didn't care about the delivery time. I just needed to get away. Away from the road, the dark, from that reflection that shouldn't exist. I drove until I found a crowded truck stop, lights blazing and engines idling. I parked as close to the building as I could, then bolted inside like a rookie on his first run. I didn't even bother locking up. When I finally came back out, hours later with the sun up and my nerves half settled, I told myself it had to have been exhaustion. A trick of the eyes, nothing more. But as I climbed back into my cab, one detail made my stomach drop all over again. On the inside of the passenger side window, faint and foggy, like it had been drawn with a fingertip on cold glass, was a single word: ride. By the third time I passed the same broken-down car with its headlights burning, I knew I wasn't lost, something else was wrong. I was hauling through western Texas, one of those long, dry stretches where the land is flat, the road is empty, and the radio turns to nothing but static. The job was routine, but the night wasn't. My GPS had been glitching off and on since I crossed state lines, recalculating routes, flashing warnings about signal loss. I chalked it up to bad reception. Then I saw it. A lone sedan, parked just past a reflective green sign. Mile marker 66. Its headlights were on, casting a dull glow across the scrub grass. No hazard lights. No one waving for help. No movement at all. Just a dead car sitting too close to the shoulder. I kept rolling, but I slowed as I passed. The windows were tinted too dark to see inside, and something about it set the hair on my arms prickling. I figured maybe the driver had already gotten a ride. Maybe they'd gone to get gas. Still, I logged the time and location in my head. Truckers do that. We keep mental notes. Half an hour later, my GPS pinged back online. Rerouting, it chirped, before spinning me in circles and planting me back on the same road I'd already been driving. I cursed under my breath, smacked the dash, and kept going straight. That's when I saw it again. Same car, same exact position. Headlights glowing like tired eyes. And the same damn green sign. Mile marker 66. I slammed my brakes, heart thudding, trailer rattling behind me. I knew I hadn't turned around. I'd been heading east the whole time. My odometer didn't lie. Yet there it was, like the road had folded back on itself. I drove past without stopping, pulse pounding, and forced myself not to look into the dark windows this time. I told myself it had to be a coincidence, another abandoned car, another sign. Maybe someone had swapped it out. Maybe fatigue was messing with me. But deep down, I knew better. An hour later, it happened again. The same glitch on the GPS, the same sudden reroute. And then, headlights, mile marker 66, the empty sedan waiting for me. By now I was sweating, hands slippery on the wheel, throat dry. The night air outside looked darker than before, like the moon had given up trying to cut through it. My own reflection in the windshield looked pale and drained. The third time I passed it, I swore I saw something new. The driver's door was cracked open just an inch. A sliver of black between the frame and the car. That nearly broke me. My stomach twisted, and I had to fight the urge to pull over and check, to prove to myself this was all in my head. But my gut screamed not to. Every instinct told me if I stopped, I'd regret it. Still, curiosity is a heavy thing. The fourth loop came. The GPS blinked, spun, froze. And then the glow on the horizon. Those damn headlights again. But this time, the car door was wide open. As I passed, I couldn't stop myself from looking. I wish I hadn't. There was someone sitting inside now. A figure, still as stone in the driver's seat, head turned toward the road. Not a twitch, not a blink, just watching me pass by. I stomped on the gas, my rig roaring down the blacktop. My chest ached with every breath, and I prayed for dawn, for traffic, for anything to break the cycle. But the night stretched on forever, and the GPS wouldn't quit. By the fifth pass, I didn't even need to see the headlights to know what was waiting. My stomach dropped as the green reflective numbers flashed again. Mile marker 66. Only now, the figure wasn't in the car. The sedan sat with both front doors flung open, headlights glaring, empty seats like gaping mouths. And in my passenger mirror, just for a split second I saw movement. A shape, pale and thin, running alongside the truck, keeping pace with impossible speed. I ripped my eyes forward, hands trembling on the wheel. I didn't dare look again. The GPS fell dark, screen lifeless, and the rest of the drive stretched on in silence, every nerve in my body strung tight, waiting for the next loop. But it never came. At least, not that night. Sometimes now, weeks later, I'll be cruising along another highway entirely, hundreds of miles from Texas, and my GPS will flicker, just for a second. And when it does, I can't bring myself to look too closely at the mile markers anymore. Because I'm terrified, I'll see that number again. 66. They were right in front of me. 3 massive rigs rolling steady in the dark. And then, in the blink of an eye, they were gone. I was hauling a refrigerated load across Oklahoma. One of those endless night drives where the blacktop stretches so far, it feels like you're the only person alive. The sky was moonless, no towns for miles, just my headlights carving 2 pale lanes through the dark. I'd been awake for too many hours, yawning so hard my jaw ached when the glow of taillights appeared ahead. 3 semis, evenly spaced, moving in a tight line. Relief hit me harder than I expected. There's a strange kind of comfort in not being alone out there. Falling in behind a convoy makes the night seem a little less empty. I matched their speed and settled in at the back of the line. Big rigs looked even larger in the dark, their reflective tape glinting, the faint glow of running lights shimmering like fireflies. The hum of my engine fell into sync with theirs. For the first time that night, I didn't feel so tired. For about 20 minutes, everything was steady. No chatter on the CB, no turnoffs, just the 4 of us carving through the night. At one point, I glanced down at my GPS, signal strong, road stretching straight ahead. When I looked back up, the taillights were gone. Not fading into the distance, not taking an exit, just gone. The blacktop stretched bare in front of me. My stomach lurched like I'd driven off a cliff. I blinked hard, sat up straighter, gripped the wheel. Maybe my eyes had played tricks on me. Maybe they'd topped a hill I couldn't see yet. I pushed the accelerator, expecting to catch sight of their glow again. Nothing. I checked my mirrors, half convinced I'd drifted, that maybe I'd passed them without realizing. Empty road behind. Nothing but my own headlights stretching backward. The hair on my arms stood on end. I flipped on the CB, my voice shaky. Convoy ahead, you copy? Only static. I drove another 10 minutes, eyes straining, knuckles white on the wheel. Then, as if mocking me, the taillights reappeared. Exactly as before, 3 trucks, evenly spaced, rolling smooth. No brake lights, no merges. Just there again, like they'd never vanished. My heart hammered. I stayed back this time, not daring to close the distance. My mouth was dry, my tongue heavy. That's when I noticed something wrong. The lights weren't steady. They flickered like candles in the wind, sputtering unnaturally against the pitch-dark road. And the spacing too perfect. The same exact gap between each rig, down to the inch. I leaned forward, squinting. The more I stared, the less those taillights looked like real lamps. They had no glare, No depth, just glowing red dots floating in formation. Every instinct screamed at me to slow down, to put as much distance as possible between me and whatever I was following. But exhaustion and dread kept me frozen, rolling at the same pace. Then my headlights caught something that made my stomach flip. The middle truck, the one in the center of the three, didn't have wheels. It wasn't touching the road at all. I slammed my foot on the brake. My rig shuddered, trailer rattling like bones in a tin can, the seatbelt biting into my chest. By the time I steadied, the convoy was gone again. The highway stretched ahead, clean and empty. I pulled over onto the shoulder, engine rumbling as I tried to catch my breath. My hands shook so badly I had to sit on them. The night pressed in on the cab, thick and silent, broken only by the faint whistle of wind over the mirrors. For the first time in years, I thought about quitting the job. I sat there for what felt like an eternity before forcing myself back onto the road. My chest was tight, every muscle tense, waiting for the glow to reappear. And sure enough, a few miles later, it did. Only this time, the lights weren't in front of me. They were in my rearview mirror. 3 sets of red glows, perfectly spaced, following silently in the dark. I couldn't bring myself to check again. I kept my eyes locked on the stretch of road ahead, refusing to blink. The GPS flickered once, then cut to black. The CB hissed with static. And for the rest of that drive, I swear, I felt them behind me. I don't know if they vanished again, or if they're still out there somewhere, waiting for me to fall in line. But I'll tell you this, I haven't driven a night route since. The first knock was soft enough to mistake for wind. The third one made me sit straight up in the dark. I was parked at a rest stop off I-40 in Arizona, one of those tiny pull-offs with a couple vending machines, a bathroom shack, and too many busted lights. I'd been running on fumes all day, and by midnight, I couldn't keep my eyes open. I pulled in, locked up, and crawled into the sleeper. Truckers get used to sleeping in strange places, but the desert at night has a way of making you feel watched. The air was dead still, and the only sound was the faint hum of my idling engine. I had just started to drift when it came. Knock, knock, knock. 3 sharp taps against the driver's side door. My eyes snapped open. At first I thought maybe another driver needed help. I reached for the curtain, but when I pulled it back, the lot was empty. No one at the door. No other trucks around. Just the vending machines humming in the distance. I chalked it up to my imagination. Too many horror podcasts on the road. Too many nights without sleep. I shut the curtain and laid back down. Knock, knock, knock. This time it was louder, unmistakable. My pulse spiked. I yanked the curtain again, faster, and scanned the lot. Nothing, not a soul. I cracked the window just enough to call out. Hello? Silence? I waited a full minute, eyes burning from staring into the shadows. Finally, I slid the window shut and forced myself back down. But the knocking didn't stop. Every few minutes, 3 deliberate taps. Sometimes on the driver's door, sometimes on the passenger side. Once, I swore it came from the back of the trailer. Always 3 knocks. Always spaced the same way. I tried ignoring it, but each time it came, my body jolted like an electric shock. The desert air inside the cab grew colder, heavy, pressing in like a weight. My breath fogged faintly in the beam of the dash lights, though the heater was still running. After the 4th round, I couldn't take it. I grabbed my flashlight, swung the door open, and jumped down. The night was silent. I circled the truck, sweeping the light over every inch of chrome and steel. Nothing. The lot was still empty. My boots crunched in the gravel, and each step echoed louder than it should have. I stood there for a long time, scanning the darkness beyond the reach of the floodlights. The desert stretched endless, black, and indifferent. Finally, I climbed back into the cab, locked both doors, and told myself I wasn't getting out again. It didn't matter. The moment I killed the flashlight and sat back down, the knocking started again. Knock, knock, knock. This time, it came from inside. I froze, skin crawling, ears straining. My eyes darted to the sleeper behind me, then to the passenger seat. Empty. But the sound had been unmistakable. 3 knocks. On metal, from within my own cab. I sat there, gripping the steering wheel like it could anchor me, barely breathing. The silence that followed was worse than the sound itself. My heart thudded so hard, it drowned out the engine. And then, one more knock. Right next to my head, on the glass of the driver's window. I jerked around so fast, I nearly wrenched my neck, but there was nothing there. Just my own pale reflection staring back, wide-eyed and terrified. I don't remember the decision to start the truck. My body just acted. I slammed it into gear and pulled out of that rest stop, like the devil himself was behind me. For miles, I kept checking my mirrors, half expecting to see someone or something clinging to the side of the cab. But there was nothing. Only black road and empty desert. Eventually, I forced myself to pull into a busier truck stop, lights blazing, engines idling all around. I parked between 2 other rigs, surrounded by people, and finally let myself breathe. I haven't stopped at one of those lonely, half-dead rest stops since. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm dead tired and drifting on the highway, I swear I hear it again. Knock, knock, always 3, always waiting. The first thump rattled the trailer hard enough to shake my mirrors. The second one sounded like something was trying to get out. I'd picked up the load just outside Dallas, middle of the night, paperwork routine. Manifest said dry goods, sealed pallets. Nothing unusual. The yard guy slapped the lock on the doors, handed me the bill, and I rolled out without thinking twice. About an hour into the drive, the noises started. At first, it was faintest shifting sound, like boxes sliding. That happens sometimes, especially if someone loaded in a hurry. But then came the thump. Heavy, solid. Not the rattle of freight sliding, but something striking the inside of the trailer wall. I frowned, glancing at the mirrors. Dark highway behind me. Nothing but my own lights stretching back. I tried to shake it off, told myself the load wasn't strapped right. But the noise came again. Louder, thump, thump. This time it was rhythmic, deliberate. A cold prickle crept up my neck. I reached for the radio, hesitated, then let my hand drop. Who was I going to call at 2 in the morning? Instead, I drove on, knuckles whitening on the wheel, every mile feeling heavier. Finally, I pulled into a deserted way station to check. The place was closed for the night. Just a strip of pavement under buzzing floodlights. I killed the engine, climbed down, and walked toward the back of the trailer. My boots echoed too loud in the stillness. The lock was still on, unbroken. But as I laid my hand on the metal, something inside scraped against the door. Long, slow dragging, like fingers. My breath caught. I stumbled back, scanning the lot. Empty. Just me and the truck. I told myself I was imagining it. Fatigue, road noise, paranoia. But I couldn't leave without checking. If the load shifted and damaged, I'd be on the hook for it. Hands trembling, I pulled the lock free, swung the latch, and yanked the doors open. The trailer was nearly empty. Not stacked with pallets like the manifest claimed. Just 3 large crates, bolted to the floor. Wooden. Old. The air that poured out was stale, carrying a sour metallic tang that made me gag. One of the crates moved. Just an inch, but enough. I saw it rock on its base, heard wood creak against the bolts. I staggered back, heart racing. No, I whispered. Nope, not my problem. I slammed the door shut so hard, the metal rattled, shoved the lock back through, and all but ran to the cab. I fired the engine and tore out of there like something was chasing me. For the next 100 miles, the noises grew worse. Scraping, pounding, sometimes so hard the whole trailer shuddered. At one point, I swore I heard a muffled voice, low, hoarse, begging. I cranked the radio to drown it out, but nothing helped. My gut twisted tighter with every mile. By the time I hit the next truck stop, I couldn't take it anymore. I parked under the brightest lights I could find, engine idling, sweat soaking my shirt despite the cold. I called dispatch, voice shaking, told them something was wrong with the freight. There was a pause on the other end, then a calm reply. Keep driving. Don't open it again. That made my skin crawl. What do you mean, don't open it? What the hell did you load me with? The line went dead. Silence. I sat there for a long time, staring at the phone, the knocking continuing faintly behind me. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. Eventually, I pulled back onto the highway, because what else could I do? But I'll never forget what happened next. As I passed under a green overhead sign, I caught sight of the trailer in my mirror, just for a second. And through a crack in the wood, illuminated by my own taillights, I saw something staring back at me. A face, pale, hollow-eyed, watching. I nearly jackknifed right there. By the time I steadied, the road was empty again, but I swear I could still feel the weight of its gaze. I delivered that load at dawn, dropped the trailer, and didn't wait around for paperwork. I don't know who signed for it or where it went, and I don't care. All I know is, every now and then, when I'm hauling at night and the road is quiet, I'll hear it again. Thump, thump. And I wonder if someone else is carrying the wrong freight now. The coffee was still steaming on the counter, but there wasn't a soul in sight. I'd been driving through rural Nebraska, one of those stretches of highway where it's just you, the hum of the tires, and miles of black nothing. By 3 a.m., my eyelids felt like lead, and the low fuel light blinked on the dash. Relief washed over me when I spotted the glow of a gas station up ahead. It looked ordinary enough, fluorescent lights buzzing. A couple of pumps lit up, the glass doors wide open. I pulled in, parked my rig near the diesel lane, and killed the engine. The silence afterward was deafening. The first thing I noticed was how still everything was. No other cars, no other trucks. Just me and the empty glow of the station. Still, I figured it was a slow night, nothing more. When I stepped inside, the automatic bell chimed overhead. The air was warm, smelling faintly of burnt coffee and cleaning supplies. The place was lit bright, every shelf stocked neatly with chips, candy, and travel supplies. But there was no clerk. Hello? I called out, my voice echoing too loudly in the empty room. No answer. I stepped farther in, boots squeaking on the linoleum. That's when I saw the coffee pot behind the counter, half-full steam still curling from the spout. Next to it sat a styrofoam cup, filled to the brim, as if someone had just poured it and walked away. A chill ran through me. I checked the restroom door. Empty. Walked the aisles. Empty. Not a sound. Not even the hum of a cooler fan. It felt staged, like a photo of a gas station, instead of the real thing. I told myself maybe the clerk had stepped outside. I went back to the door and scanned the lot. Nothing. Not even a stray car passing on the road. That's when I heard it. A faint shuffle from the back storage room. My chest tightened. I called out again, louder this time. Hey, you open? Silence, and another shuffle, followed by 3 slow knocks from behind the storage door. I froze. My hand hovered near my phone, but I couldn't bring myself to dial. Something about the sound felt wrong, not desperate, not accidental, intentional. I backed toward the counter, eyes locked on the door. My reflection stared back from the cooler glass, pale and nervous under the harsh lights. Then the bathroom light flicked on. I hadn't touched it. I hadn't seen anyone go in, but the light burned yellow through the crack under the door. My legs wanted to run, but I couldn't leave without fueling up. I forced myself back outside, every step heavy, the bell chiming overhead like it was mocking me. I swiped my card, grabbed the nozzle, and kept darting glances at the station. Through the glass doors, I swore I saw movement shadows slipping between aisles. I told myself it was my imagination, my brain playing tricks on me. Then came the sound of the automatic door chime. It dinged once. No one came out. My throat went dry. I shoved the nozzle back in place before the tank was even half full, jumped into the cab, and locked the doors. My hands shook so badly, I nearly dropped the keys. As I started the engine, I glanced once more at the station. The lights inside were off now. All of them. The place sat in complete darkness, as if it had never been open. I floored it out of there, trailer rattling behind me, heart hammering like it was trying to tear out of my chest. I didn't look back until the glow disappeared completely into the horizon. The next morning, still rattled, I mentioned it to another trucker over breakfast at a diner. His face went pale. "That station shut down years ago," he said. "Closed after a clerk went missing on a night shift. No one's been in there since." I wanted to argue, to tell him about the lights, the coffee, the knocks on the storage room door, but the words wouldn't come out, because deep down, I already knew I hadn't imagined it. "I just don't know if I'll ever want to stop for fuel at 3 a.m. again." She was waving at me from the overpass, desperate and frantic, yet seconds later, I heard her voice on my CB, whispering for me not to stop. I was heading north through Missouri, the kind of dead stretch of highway where you could drive an hour without seeing another set of headlights. It was just past 2 in the morning, and the road had taken on that strange, dreamlike quality it does when fatigue starts pressing down hard. That's when I saw her. A small figure on the overpass ahead. A girl young, maybe 12 or 13, standing right at the rail, waving both arms like her life depended on it. My stomach dropped. In the seconds it took to approach, my mind scrambled through possibilities. A runaway, a kid in danger, maybe someone needing help after an accident. I slowed instinctively, eyes locked on her. Her face was pale in the glow of my headlights, hair hanging limp. She wasn't just waving, she was pointing, gesturing wildly for me to stop. I flicked on my hazards, heart pounding, reaching for the CB mic to warn anyone else on the road. But before I could press the button, the speaker crackled alive on its own. "Don't stop," a voice, small, urgent, a girl's voice. I froze. It came again, clearer this time, cutting through the static. "Please, don't stop." I dropped the mic like it burned me. My rig rolled under the overpass, and in the corner of my eye, I saw her leaning over the railing, still waving frantically. When I glanced in the mirror, the overpass was empty. The hazard lights clicked in the silence, the sound unbearably loud. I reached for the CB again with shaking hands, convinced I'd imagined it. But the moment I touched the mic, the static hissed, and her voice came through once more. "They'll make you stop. Don't listen." My throat went dry. "Who is this?" I croaked. Static. Then a whisper so soft I barely caught it. "They're not real." I swerved slightly, trying to steady my grip on the wheel. The road stretched on, endless, barren. My headlights carved through the dark, and for a moment I thought I was alone again. Then I saw them. Up ahead, barely lit by my beams, 3 people on the shoulder. A man, a woman, and the same young girl. The adults waved their arms, stepping into the lane, forcing me to slow down. My pulse hammered in my ears. The girl was there again, identical to the one I'd seen on the overpass, identical to the voice on the CB. I eased off the gas, my foot hovering over the brake. They were right in the middle of the road, faces pale and eyes wide, clothes all torn up like they'd been in a crash. The woman raised her hands, palms out, begging. My CB hissed. Don't, they're not us. The girl's voice again. My skin crawled. My instincts screamed at me to stop, to help, but every word from that radio felt soaked in truth. My knuckles whitened on the wheel as I made the split-second choice. I swerved into the other lane and barreled past. As my headlights swept across them, I caught a glimpse I'll never forget. Their faces, those pale, pleading faces, went flat, expressionless. The moment they realized I wasn't stopping, their bodies twisted unnaturally, like puppets yanked on strings. Their mouths opened in unison, too wide, as if to scream, but no sound came out. Then they were gone. The shoulder was empty. The highway stretched bare behind me. I drove until dawn without touching the CB again, every muscle locked in tension, waiting for that voice to return. But the radio stayed silent. When I finally pulled into a truck stop, my body felt like it had been wrung dry. I sat there in the cab for nearly an hour before I could force myself to move. I asked around later, half hoping someone else had seen them too. Most drivers just shook their heads. But one old-timer, face lined like weathered leather, gave me a look that still makes my stomach twist. You heard the girl, didn't you? He asked quietly. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. He just nodded, eyes dark. Then you did the right thing. If you'd stopped, you wouldn't be here telling the story. And ever since that night, I've kept my CB off. Because sometimes, late on lonely stretches of highway, I swear I can hear her voice bleeding through the static again, begging me not to stop. In the mirror, the trailer door flapped wide open in the storm, yet when I pulled over to check, it was locked tight. I'd been driving through Kansas in one of those late summer storms that makes the world feel like it's ending. Rain hammered the windshield so hard my wipers couldn't keep up. Lightning flashed white across the fields, and the wind shoved at the rig like a bully trying to tip me over. The radio had gone static miles back, and the only sound left was the roar of rain and the creak of my truck straining against the gusts. That's when I noticed it. In the side mirror, the trailer door was swinging open, wide, then shut, wide again, rattling violently in the wind. My stomach dropped. A loose trailer door at highway speed can be deadly, send freight spilling, cause wrecks, even flip the truck. I cursed under my breath, eased onto the shoulder, and fought the storm to a stop. I threw on my raincoat, grabbed a flashlight, and jumped down into ankle-deep water. The storm swallowed me whole, wind howling, rain stinging my face. I staggered to the back of the trailer, bracing myself for the sight of the doors swinging free. But they weren't. Both doors were sealed, lock in place, not even rattling. I stood there, soaked and shivering, staring like an idiot at the metal latch. My breath fogged in the beam of the flashlight. Nothing wrong, nothing loose. Still, I tugged on the handle just to be sure. Solid. The doors didn't budge. Uneasy, I climbed back into the cab and pulled out. Not 5 minutes later, I checked the mirror again and froze. The door was swinging, wide open, clear as day in the reflection. This time, lightning lit the road long enough for me to catch something worse. In the split-second white glare, I swore I saw a shadowy figure clinging to the inside of the open trailer. Thin, long-limbed, crouched near the ceiling. The light died. The mirror showed only black. I nearly lost control of the wheel. My knuckles burned from gripping so tight. I wanted to believe it was a trick of the storm, my tired brain misfiring in the chaos. But my gut twisted, heavy, and certain. Something wasn't right back there. I kept driving, too terrified to stop again. Rain hammered. Thunder cracked. The mirror showed the door swinging, then shut, then open again, like it couldn't decide what was real. And then came the sound. A hollow bang against the front wall of the trailer. Once, twice, 3 times. Each strike rattled through the cab, vibrating the seat beneath me. Freight shifting, I whispered to myself, though I knew damn well the load was secure. I checked it myself at pickup. The banging grew louder, faster, like fists slamming metal. I couldn't take it anymore. I pulled into a truck stop, lights glowing weakly through the storm. My heart thudded as I parked under a floodlight, engine idling, rain drumming on the roof. This time, I didn't get out. I just sat there, staring at the mirror. The door hung wide open. I swallowed hard and forced myself to glance back through the sleeper window toward the trailer. From that angle, I could see the real doors, locked shut. I flicked on the interior light. In the mirror, the trailer door was still gaping wide, rain whipping inside. And in the reflection, something began to crawl down from the ceiling. I squeezed my eyes shut, breath ragged, every nerve screaming at me not to look again. When I finally forced them open, the mirror showed only the storm-slicked road behind me. The trailer door looked shut once more. But the banging didn't stop. Even as I pulled away from the truck stop, even as the storm began to fade, the pounding carried on. A steady rhythm, like something alive was inside the freight, demanding to be let out. I delivered that load at dawn, dropped the trailer, signed the papers, and didn't stick around for questions. But I'll tell you this, I can't look at my side mirrors the same way anymore. Because sometimes, late at night, the reflection doesn't match what's really there. And I know one day, if I look too long, I'll see that door swing open again, and something will be waiting for me. When I went to sleep, the rest area was packed with semis-lined door to door. When I woke up, mine was the only one left. I'd been pushing my hours too hard, eyes burning by the time I pulled into the rest stop just outside Illinois. The lot was jammed, full trucks stacked row after row, drivers catching shut-eye before the morning push. It felt safe, comforting even. I backed into a slot, killed the engine, and sat for a moment in the quiet. The glow of running lights blinked across the lot, like a constellation of red and amber stars. A low hum of idling engines and the occasional slam of a cab door carried on the night air. Safety in numbers, I thought. I closed the curtains, stretched out in the sleeper, and let the noise of the other rigs lull me under. The first thing I noticed when I woke was the silence. I sat up, groggy, disoriented, expecting to hear the usual drone of engines, a distant shuffle of boots on gravel. Instead, the cab was dead quiet. The air felt heavier, too, as though the atmosphere itself had thickened overnight. I yanked open the curtain. The lot was empty. Every truck, every car, every trace of life gone. Just my rig sitting alone under a pale morning sky. My stomach lurched. I slid out of the bunk and flung the door open, boots hitting gravel. The place felt wrong instantly. Too still. No birds, no insects, not even the distant hum of highway traffic. Just the faint whistle of wind through the trees. I walked the lot in disbelief. Rows that had been crammed full the night before now sat barren, tire tracks vanishing into nothing. No oil stains where rigs had idled. No trash, no cups, no sign of life. It was like they'd never been there. My pulse hammered as I checked the rest stop building. Doors wide open, fluorescent lights buzzing inside. The vending machines glowed, stocked full, the bathroom stalls pristine. But there wasn't a soul. Not a clerk, not another driver, nobody. I tried my phone, no service. Not even a single bar. That's when the unease curdled into something worse. I realized I hadn't heard a single sound since stepping out of the cab. No distant horns. No engines. Nothing. The highway itself was empty. I stood on the shoulder staring down that endless strip of asphalt, and not a single vehicle passed in either direction. At 8 in the morning on an interstate, The silence pressed down so heavy, I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. I climbed back into the cab, locked the doors, and just sat there with the engine idling. Part of me thought maybe I was still dreaming, that I'd wake again to the familiar chorus of trucks around me. But then I noticed something that froze me to the bone. On my windshield, written in streaks of condensation from the inside, were 3 words. "Last one left." My stomach dropped. I wiped at the glass with my sleeve, but the letters smeared, as real as any breath. I scrambled into the sleeper, heart jackhammering, checking every corner of the cab, though I knew damn well I was alone. The doors had been locked all night. No one could have gotten in. Still, the words hung there, mocking me. I don't remember how long I sat frozen, listening, waiting for anything to break the silence. At some point, I forced myself to drive. I didn't care where I just needed to get out of there. Mile after mile, the road stretched empty. Not a car, not a truck, not even a patrol cruiser. Towns I passed looked abandoned, stoplights flickering pointlessly over dead intersections. Gas stations dark, storefronts vacant. It felt like I had slept through the end of the world. Finally, after hours of nothing, my CB crackled alive. Just a faint whisper, too garbled to make out at first. I leaned in, heart leaping with desperate hope. Then I heard it, my own voice. "Last one left." I nearly drove off the road. I yanked the cord from the set, but the static continued faintly, filling the cab with my own distorted whisper. I don't know how I'm still driving, or what I'll find if I keep going. All I know is that I haven't seen another living soul since that night at the rest stop. And every time I check my mirrors, I half expect to see someone sitting in the empty passenger seat, waiting for me to realize what last one left really means.